Living under a rock. It's the 18th anniversary of one of the defining geopolitical events of my generation and probably yours as well. So it's been 18 years since September 11th, 2001. It's old enough to vote. It's old enough to serve in the military. It's old enough to realize that, hey, so the terrorists that attacked us because they hate our freedoms, what freedoms were they talking about specifically? Because I haven't been able to find any, and it's really bothering me. Now, I'm not sure if the children coming of age today even have the critical capacity to ask questions like that. I really hope they do. And I'm not really sure of the average age of my audience. I don't know. I generally tend to assume they're my age or older. But if there are any kids here, please tell me what is Generation Z's the next one down position on the whole 9/11 thing. Because for my generation, it was kind of the first time that we were told point blank 2 plus 2 equals 5. Anyone who says any differently is a terrorist. You might think I'm exaggerating, those of you who did not live through this. But, yeah, the Patriot Act, which, as you probably know, was cooked up and ready to go before the planes hit the towers, took away all those pesky freedoms that the terrorists supposedly hated so much, and replaced them with cardboard facsimiles thereof, which had the word freedom and democracy in them, but did not actually allow for any real freedom or real democracy. Now, it's debatable whether the word democracy still means rule by the people, given that it's more frequently used to mean rule by a U.S. proxy involving much death and much trickery. I already did a whole video about the transformation of certain linguistic buzzwords into their opposite, a la Orwell, which I would suggest you watch if you have not seen it already. So that was my generation's, our first, real, you must believe this utterly unbelievable story or else you are with the enemy. As you may recall George Bush getting up there and saying you're either with us or against us. Well, where does that leave? I mean, I was a kid. I was in junior high when this happened. Everybody probably remembers where they were when they heard that the planes had hit the towers. I was in Massachusetts. I was called in with all my classmates to an assembly in which we learned that the planes had hit the towers. And I had two conflicting thoughts at the time. One was, planes hitting towers? That's kind of cool. And two was, oh no, we're going to war. We're all going to die. So that was an interesting sort of whipsawing between one extreme and the other. You may think I'm a little sociopath for thinking planes flying into towers is cool, but I mean, it was already predictively programmed into several Hollywood films before that, so it's not like I was the only one thinking that way, let's put it that way. One thing I did find very strange even then, even though I was a kid with very little political, any awareness of what this might actually mean. The next day, September 12th, getting dropped off at school, and the car in front of us had a bumper sticker with a picture of Mickey Mouse in his American flag underwear, and had his middle finger up and said, "Osama can kiss my ass." Now, how would that sticker have been manufactured and mass-produced and shipped out to Massachusetts in 24 hours? That's just strange. Even my young self thought that was really weird, and I mean, it was very rapid, the speed with which they pinned the whole thing on Osama bin Laden, even though there was no indication that he had anything to do with it. I mean, he even said he didn't have anything to do with it, and they tried to mistranslate what he said to indicate that he did, but there was really no, I mean, you really had to reach to attach one to the other, which is why, of course, they had the Israeli Prime Minister come on and say, yes, it was Osama bin Laden. We know this. How do you know this? Oh, well, because, we, don't ask questions. That's been the whole line under 9/11. Don't ask questions. And if you may recall, there were some people who came out after the attacks publishing in major outlets saying, well, blowback, or, maybe we did deserve this. I mean, there was the radical Christians saying, oh, we deserve this because we accept homosexuality and abortion and all this stuff. There was radical leftists saying, well, we did kind of, destroy half of the third world in the name of spreading capitalism. So what do we expect? These people were all vilified, some deservedly so, but in the past you were allowed to say things like that. In the post 9/11 world, it quickly became apparent you could not. The Patriot Act, which again was not triggered by 9/11, I mean its passage was triggered by 9/11, but as Naomi Klein has quite expertly laid out in her book, Shock Doctrine, if you want to pass a really unpopular policy that nobody in their right mind would ever support, you have to create a really devastating and earth-shattering event to throw everybody off balance, and then present this horrible idea as the only alternative to that earth-shattering event. People will cling to it as if it is their lifeline in the ocean of uncertainty. So yeah, order out of chaos and all that. That was what the PNAC, Project for a New American Century, did with their new Pearl Harbor, and the Patriot Act was rolled out without delay, shoved down our throats, and all of a sudden there became no more boundaries between the government and our private spheres. Those of you who are coming of age, those of you who maybe like 9/11 itself are turning 18 and getting ready to become adults, might not know that we used to have a thing called privacy. We used to have a Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable search and seizure, which would have prevented the government from going into your private affairs, whether it's your information, your home, your records, your everything, even your library book. That was a big deal at that time, back in 2001, that it allowed the government to search through your library book, check out records, back when we still had libraries and books and things like that. It was unprecedented and shocking to many people. Civil liberties groups were justifiably horrified. This is when we still had civil liberties groups, before the ACLU and its kin decided to switch over to championing transgender rights and legal immigrants and the usual causes du jour, which, I mean, that's fine. Go ahead and champion those people, but you're a civil liberties group. Maybe you should support civil liberties, because, like, ours are completely... I mean, maybe they're just admitting defeat. I don't know. But the ACLU has become like the ADL Junior, basically. I mean, to think that this group once supported the right of Nazis to march through Skokie, Illinois. Not that I support Nazis, but if you support free speech, you support free speech for everybody. So that unfortunately places you on the side of some unpopular people. ACLU is no longer capable of taking a principled stand on behalf of unpopular people, so that more popular people can allow their voices to be heard as well. Those of you who claim to be free speech activists, but who take issue with certain kinds of speech, I mean, unless we're talking incitement to violence, or unless we're talking slander, there's really, I mean, free speech is free speech. You don't like what somebody's saying? Argue with them. That's how it works. Free speech is not free speech asterisk. 9/11, if you weren't there at the time, you may not know this, but it galvanized a lot of people to come forward and serve their country. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard being one. If you don't know my feelings about Tulsi Gabbard, I made a video a couple months ago, before she did that stupid vote on the BDS thing, which really cemented my distrust of her. But even, 6 months ago when I made this video, I was... my enthusiasm was waning, shall we say. I did donate to her, finally, just to get her on the debate stage, but, Tulsi's not going to save us any more than Bernie did, so I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but she's not worth much. She's made too many compromises already, and there's not any coming back from those compromises. If you vote to condemn BDS as anti-Semitic, knowing full well that there are laws in the pipeline to make so-called anti-Semitism, which now includes criticism of Israel and criticism of Zionism, illegal, then you are voting to make BDS illegal. I don't care what your excuses are. They are disingenuous, and you are lying to your supporters. Actually, I know of somebody who asked for their money back from Tulsi and got it. So if you're a Tulsi supporter who's pissed off by your BDS vote, ask for your money back. Maybe that will actually, wake her up to the reality of what she voted for. But, continuing. Anyway, Tulsi said that she joined the military because of what happened on 9/11. And she's not the only one. There were a lot of people who did that. I know a person who joined the state services, the intelligence services, because of what happened on 9/11. And this is a very smart person. I don't really understand how, after 18 years, he doesn't realize that he signed on to the wrong side. But I suspect there might be some cognitive dissonance there, some unwillingness to admit that he has been complicit in war crimes. The fact is that people who signed on because they thought that we were under threat by terrorists were sold a bill of goods. Many ended up going to war to fight for Israel, and back then it wasn't really widely known that that was the purpose of the fight. We were told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and if we didn't go and take him out, then we were going to get anthraxed or nerve gassed or some such nonsense, or yellow cake uranium or some shit like that. Of course, that was not true, and it's been made abundantly clear. But you still see people. I had an argument on Twitter the other day with somebody insisting that Afghanistan was behind the 9/11 attacks. Now, even the official story doesn't say that. The official story says that Al-Qaeda was behind the 9/11 attacks. Now, that in and of itself is a dodgy story, but that is the official line. That Osama bin Laden was hiding out in Afghanistan, yes, but the Taliban offered to turn him over if Bush would guarantee due process, and Bush said, no, we don't negotiate with terrorists. How do you spell terrorists, by the way? Is it Turrurists? I don't know. Yeah, the Taliban, people condemning Trump for suggesting that we should have a negotiation with the Taliban when he invited them to Camp David. Now, what, would you rather have 2 more decades of war? I really don't understand why people are opposed to this. Taliban traitor Trump was trending. Are you people insane? I mean, do you just not remember? Are you like Tim Ryan here saying that, oh yeah, Afghanistan attacked us at 9/11? What? No, they didn't. Afghanistan didn't do anything to us. All they did was try to burn down the poppy fields, and of course, CIA can't have that. We need our opium. Obviously, how are we going to addict half the American population to this insanely addictive drug if we don't have our opium? So that was one of the reasons why I went to war in Afghanistan. Obviously, there were others. It's a big new Brzezinski's whole world island thing being the chief among them. I mean, it's the same reason why Russia wanted it. Russia, of course, learned their lesson and got out. Of course, then the U.S., which dragged Russia into it in the first place in order to break up the Soviet Union, then somehow didn't learn from their mistake, and after funding the Mujahideen in order to fight against Russia, they decided to, take them on themselves because... Memory? What? I mean, I have a terrible memory. I'll admit this, but I would remember that. But whatever. Osama bin Laden overnight went from being adopt a Muj. They had these parties, like something out of a Tom Wolfe story, but basically they would have these parties where rich people would go and meet with these Mujahideen who were being funded and set up by the CIA and adopt, quote unquote, one, fund them personally. So they had these adopt a Muj, which I think is hilarious. McCain was involved in this, of course, because McCain loves him some Muj. So Osama went from being one of those to being publicly enemy number 1, being the subject of Mickey Mouse flipping off bumper stickers, which is just weird. And of course, so it had to be the Israeli prime minister on national TV saying, oh, well, it was Osama bin Laden. We know this. How do you know this? Oh, I don't know. We're psychic. We planned it ourselves. So wait, no, we can't say that. I mean, you had Bibi Netanyahu come on TV and say, oh, well, what does this mean? Oh, it's very good. Wait, did you just say what you, well, no, it's not good, but it's good for Israel. Oh, it's not good, but it's good for Israel. And of course, the dancing Israelis came out earlier this year. The photographs, of course, the faces were blanked out and the towers were blanked out. I don't know why you have to blank out the towers. I guess to try to hide the fact that they were smoking and burning in the background, and the guy's holding up a lighter, flicking it. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. I mean, you do know that Israelis were pulled over in vans with explosive residue on the George Washington Bridge and then say, oh, well, we're not the problem. The Palestinians are the problem. They're not the ones driving around vans full of explosive residue and celebrating in front of the burning Twin Towers, but they're the problem. We don't like the look of them. That's what it is. So, it's a little ridiculous. And of course, now we've got this University of Alaska study basically proving that Building 7 didn't fall because of office fires, which, I'm sorry, if you believe that one, I have an ocean liner in Wyoming that I will sell you. This is so stupid that I mean, most people don't even know that there was a Building 7, which is just insane. I mean, even the people who go to downtown Manhattan now to, like, pay homage to the victims, they have these memorials, these deep pools in the site of the original Twin Towers. But where's Building 7? Oh, Building 7, there's another building there already. 7 World Trade Center. Which, if you don't know, Larry Silverstein had the plans drawn up before the building actually was destroyed. So it's almost like he knew it was coming or something. I mean, you would have to be a conspiracy theorist to think like that. But you have to be a coincidence theorist to not think like that. And I'm sorry, I'm not a coincidence theorist. I really think that people need to popularize that term more, because this whole conspiracy thing is falling apart around itself like this after the FBI declared war on conspiracy theorists by saying they're domestic extremists waiting to happen. We really need to get those coincidence theorists out there just to make fun of these people, because, like, I mean, even if you're not a physicist or an architect or an engineer or any of these things, you look at these buildings and you think something's not right there. And that's a healthy thing to think. Having a little bit of skepticism is smart, which is why I hate to see these people who call themselves skeptics, who their idea of skepticism is to believe the official story no matter what, no matter how many holes are poked in it, no matter how many gaping logical flaws are pointed out. No, it's skeptical to believe the official story. Yeah, basically, I mean, you point out things like Building 7 to people, to intelligent people who just maybe haven't given this too much thought, and they start to realize, wait a second, we've been fooled. So there is still some hope in educating people. I mean, like, sometimes you want to write off all of humanity, but the fact is that not everybody is as stupid as the media establishment presents them as. More than half of people believe in some sort of quote-unquote conspiracy theory. I think something like 2/3 believe in that there was more than one person involved in the JFK assassination, which, duh. I mean, like, duh, literally, duh. 2/3 of people believe that Jeffrey Epstein probably didn't kill himself. Probably. I don't know what the fraction is that believe he's not dead, but check out the drone video of his island where there's a guy that looks very Epstein-esque who ducks and covers as soon as he sees the drone. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. And it's like more than 50% believe the government is covering up knowledge about 9/11. And the point of these Building 7 studies and stuff like that is not to say, oh, this is exactly how it happened. It's to say that, well, the official story is clearly a lie. Therefore, something is being covered up. Therefore, who's doing the covering up and who are they hiding? Who are they covering up for? I would say the how is less important than the who and the why. Once you've got those, you can put an end to all the wars, because people will stop fighting for wars for greater Israel. At least, you know, they should. There's an army guy, I forget his name, but he was in the Jerusalem Post recently talking about how American soldiers need to be ready to fight and die for Israel. This is actually a guy in the U.S. Army saying this, which is really scary because, I mean, I always thought that, like, if you tell the military that, hey, you know, you guys aren't, like, actually fighting for our freedoms, you're fighting for Israel. You're fighting for a greater Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates. I thought that would wake people up. I might be wrong, because that guy literally said it in the Jerusalem Post, and I didn't see a mass mutiny. You would think, I mean, the USS Liberty, you would think those guys would be going around, I mean, they were banned from, like, the American Legion or something for, you know, for wrongthink, but you would think that they would be able to wake some of their fellows up to, like, hey, you know, that fighting that you're doing for that state that's supposedly our ally, they killed all of our colleagues, they killed 30 fucking people. More than that, I don't know the exact number. But what I'm trying to say is that people coming of age now never knew a lot of things that we used to take for granted. Those things that people fought for, those who enlisted after 9/11. Things like privacy, things like the Bill of Rights. We don't have those anymore, and I don't know if it's possible to get them back without some form of revolution. I mean, to have a revolution, you need revolutionaries, and I don't think we have those. But if people could see what is awaiting them, as far as, oh, you think, oh, well, our freedoms are gone, at least it can't get any worse. Oh no, it actually can. It can get a lot worse, and it's getting that quickly. Trump has expressed interest in this HARPA, Health Advanced Project Research Agency. Health Advanced Research Project Agency, like DARPA, which is basically pre-crime. They want to stake out what neuropsychological processes precede a mass shooting or precede a snapping of some kind. And they're going to do that by spying on you with your electronic devices, your Amazon snitch. One of those little snitches you bring into your house to make your life easier. I don't know why anybody would do this, but apparently people do it. And yeah, your Alexa, your Fitbit, your Fitbitch, your Shitbit, your those things. They are spying on you. You know this already. It's not like they haven't admitted it. But now they're spying on you for another reason. So they're basically your electronic babysitters to make sure that you don't snap, commit some atrocity. Government's allowed to commit atrocities. They do that all the time. And they also fund other people who want to do it, like, say, Israel or Saudi Arabia. I mean, the UN Human Rights Council just came out with a report last week, I think, saying that US, UK, and France, it's been 5 years in Yemen. The fact that you guys are claiming you don't know that there's war crimes going on over there with those weapons that you're selling to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates and etc., it doesn't hold water. You know there's war crimes being fought with your weapons, therefore you are guilty of those war crimes. However, it will never come to a trial because the U.S. has already proved that it's willing to use mafia intimidation techniques to stop investigations of its own war crimes. We saw this with the ICC. This woman from Gabon, I think, trying to investigate U.S. atrocities in Afghanistan, had her visa revoked, or had her visa threatened to be revoked because, investigating atrocities in Afghanistan. I think she was also interested in investigating atrocities committed by Israel against Palestinian civilians, such as the nerve gassing of civilians in 2001, which a lot of people don't really know about. I wonder why that is. Oh, because the article was removed from Wikipedia? Well, if you were still looking at Wikipedia for information, then I'm afraid you're a little out of sync with the times. But, yeah, the whole nerve gas thing, I don't even know what to say. Like, the atrocities that we commit on a regular basis are enough to make one violently ill, but let's not use the word violently, because then our electronic devices will start sending out beacons. And basically, your Fitbit can now have you committed. Well, not quite. But soon enough, once this program is up and running, if your Alexa hears you saying something that it doesn't like the sound of, they can have cops at your door in no time at all, and you'll be hauled off to a mental institution. Trump said he wants to bring back involuntary commitment, or step up involuntary commitment. You'll be at least forcibly medicated, if not confined against your will. And there's nothing you can do about it, because AI knows better. They're already using AI to track Child Protective Services cases, which is really, really scary if you know anything about Child Protective Services, if you know anything about medical kidnapping, any of this stuff. I mean, if you think that any of this is being done for your own good, you're hopelessly naive. I wish that I lived in your world, but the thing is that you don't even live in that world. We live in a world where the government is capable of enormous amounts of evil. And you might think that, oh, if I have nothing to hide, I have nothing to fear. You might not think you have anything to hide, but somebody doesn't like you, somebody gets some power, then guess what? All of a sudden, you're accused of a crime you didn't commit. And all they have to do is get an AI to point the finger at you, or fake a recording, or anything like that. If you don't think that in East Germany, in the days of the Stasi, that the informants made stuff up about their neighbors in order to get perks, then you're a fool. If you're not aware, even in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, where the U.S. Runs around torturing people to get information out of them, If you don't think that those torture victims coughed up information about their neighbors that wasn't true just to get the torture to stop, you're an idiot. And, I don't want to insult people here, but anybody who believes that the government is not capable of really terrifying things, I don't know what planet you're on, but it's time to wake up, because, seriously, it's been almost 2 decades since the world changed significantly. The start of the quote-unquote war on terror, which basically became a war of terror against both Muslim populations abroad, American populations back home, basically against everyone. Everybody in some way has been touched by this. Not to get too Americo-centric here, but the problem is that our slip-ups, our mishaps, our war crimes have a funny habit of affecting everybody around the globe. If only because the dollar is the world's reserve currency, and if our market crashes, so does everybody else's in some way. But also because we have troops in basically most of the world's countries. I think the number is 140 or something like that. That's most of the world's countries. And that wasn't that way 20 years ago. We had a lot less of this military insanity. We have more of the budget devoted to the military now than ever before. Even though our military is not battle ready at all. We have things like the F-35, which is just a joke, $1 trillion joke that can't do shit. And people make fun of our weaponry because it's so bad. Turkey would rather get sanctions than buy F-35s. That's pretty bad. But, that's neoliberalism in action. Most of our military suppliers are monopolies, and that's the free market. You let them become monopolies. Let them become government-protected monopolies. Neoliberalism was never about the free market. This idea that there is such a thing as a free market is a pathetic joke. All of this is government-protected mafioso capitalism. And I would like to see a free market sometime, because I think it could actually work, give people a chance to create a better project and create a better mousetrap, and people will buy that mousetrap, and that mousetrap will make its owner billions, theoretically. But not when the government is backing the shitty mousetrap, and this idea that there is such a thing as a free market is just a pathetic joke. And that would be the last thing that the U.S. is left standing for, because, like I said, the Bill of Rights is basically gone. Well, they're now chipping away at the Second Amendment to go with the First. First Amendment, totally gone. You can see this video. I have 10 times as many subscribers on YouTube as I do on BitChute. I get the same amount of views on both platforms. Why is that? Oh, right, because I'm censored on YouTube. Basically, the Bill of Rights is in tatters. And so what would be left? Oh, the free market. We still have the free market. We still have our precious capitalism that we try to stuff down the throats of people who don't want it in Venezuela and Cuba and Nicaragua and places like that. Oh, but we don't actually have a free market. We have a crony capitalism. That's not the same thing. So if you want to go to war and fight to defend crony capitalism, I wish you the best of luck, but don't come crying to me when you get your legs blown off because people don't want it.